For the last decade, I've been pretty obsessed with toy cameras. I have a couple of Dianas, a Holga and a box brownie on which I'll flip the lens, and I've been taking pictures for a long-term project with these. Recently, a new camera has joined the flock, and it's something really unusual for me because it's a digital camera. It's this little Chuzhao here, and I've become pretty obsessed with it too. Today I want to show you how you can improve this little camera to be an even better toy and to give you many more possibilities than you have already with this camera. It's actually very cool because it's super experimental, but you don't have to worry about wasting film if your experiments don't work out. I've already made a video about this camera on my main channel where I compared it to an old phone from 6 years ago. Spoiler alert, this little camera was worse. Unsurprisingly, I think. But then toy cameras aren't really meant to produce pristine images anyway, so it doesn't really matter that it's not good. In fact, my problem with this little camera was that it was in fact a little too good. I mean, it's not super sharp, but sometimes it's still a little too sharp for what you expect from a toy camera image. And there's also very little wonkiness to do with the lens. There's no distortion or strange corners or anything like that. And most toy cameras have that sort of effect on the picture that makes the pictures look sort of special. And I thought the best solution would be to put these little phone filters on it, which are basically meant to clip on your phone and then give you special effects for that. And since this camera sensor is roughly the size of a phone camera sensor, it would be a really good fit. But of course, this little camera doesn't have a filter thread or anything like it, so the main issue is here mounting the filters on the lens. You can buy a version of this camera that has filters already, and I thought it was a little bit too expensive for what it is. And there's actually a really easy way to modify the cheap version to take these filters. It just involves a little bit of DIY. The only downside here is that this mod is permanent, so you will have to use glue and be careful about it, or you might actually ruin the lens and so on. So be careful about it or you will destroy your little camera. These are not expensive, so replacing it won't be such a big issue, but it would be better if you are careful and don't destroy your camera with this. And since this mod will involve glue, or in this case 2-part epoxy, I thought it would be much better to fit something to it permanently that doesn't wear out. I could definitely 3D print a mount for the filters, but that's not necessarily a permanent solution because 3D printed plastics are kind of brittle and don't last that long. So I wanted to have a metal filter thread for it. This is actually not that difficult to achieve because there are all these phone clips floating about, and some of them actually have metal filter rings on them that we can repurpose. The only issue here is that you have to be careful to choose one that is not too deep. My first attempt at taking apart one of these phone clips was actually not that fruitful because the metal ring turned out to be a bit too thick. And that created vignetting. And vignetting is when you get like black corners in the frame. And even though that can be an effect that can be desirable, and many toy cameras do have that effect, it would be better if it wasn't the case and you can add it in post. In the end, I found a phone clip that had a thinner ring, and this is this apexel one. And it comes in this set with really nice filters actually, so it's actually a good purchase for this in general. So I've linked it in the description, and if you get that set, that filter ring is actually a good idea to use for this mod. At first I tried to attach it with still some plastics too, so that it would have a black frame, but in the end this couldn't get me close enough to the lens, and I cut away the entire plastic. And it worked actually quite well, so this was a good way of doing it. Once I had the ring ready, I started mixing the epoxy. And yeah, don't do as I do, do as I say. You should be wearing gloves. I didn't because they were all the way downstairs in the dark room and I couldn't be bothered, and I was using so little epoxy, and yeah, wear gloves. I didn't glue my fingers together, so it's all fine. But yeah, you should really be wearing gloves when you're handling epoxy. It's not that healthy. And also maybe do it in a well-ventilated area. In my case, I had the window open. At least I did that, you know. And why am I recommending epoxy? Well, this is actually important because superglue can actually mess with plastics quite a bit. Not all plastics are suitable for handling with superglue, and many acrylics actually fog when exposed to superglue. So since this is a plastic lens, you don't want it to fog, and that's why we're using epoxy and not superglue. Applying it was rather easy. I used a toothpick for it because cotton buds tend to soak it up, so that's not really good. A toothpick is the better choice. I still made a little bit of a mess and got it on places that I didn't want to get it on, but not on the lens, so I was careful with that. Just on the filter ring itself, I still had some epoxy that wasn't supposed to be there. After it had set a bit, about 10 minutes in, I actually removed all of that with isopropyl alcohol, and that worked really well. Just make sure not to use too much or you will remove all the glue, and then, you know, it's kind of pointless to glue it and then remove it entirely. So a little will go a long way. I also waited a good long while before I attached any filters to it. And no vignetting. Okay, I don't want to put it all the way in case there's still some glue. I definitely took the first picture with it the next day, and it gave me these really funny elvish ears, which kind of inspired me to take it to the forest to try it out. I actually had my Lumix S5 II X on me as well, in case this experiment didn't work out. And I was shooting a Canon 35mm f2 lens. I think I found the perfect subject for this little test, because this old fig tree is always a nice little thing to photograph. It, especially in winter, it just looks really creepy, I have to say. So I think for the special effects filters that I want to try today, this is the perfect subject. It's gonna be a bit eerie, hopefully, the results. We'll see, we'll see. And yes, I'm holding a lav mic because we're close to a motorway and that's the only way you can actually hear me. Okay, I'll get the camera out now and see what I can find here. Frankly, I don't really see anything on this viewfinder. It's so small. I'm getting to guess a bit, so it's alright. It's quite fun. looks like it's about to get more leaves. They actually cut this tree back quite a bit last year, and I was a bit sad about that. But they tend to grow rather quickly, so I'm hoping that it will grow back quite a bit too. One thing I also wanted to try is maybe some self-portraits. Not easy to get yourself in the center of this radial filter, but it's quite cool, I think. Of course, I haven't seen the pictures in big yet, so I don't know how great they really are, but I think there are 1 or 2 pictures that I quite like. And, well, it's just a toy, so it's alright if those pictures don't turn out amazing. It's really fun to play with these sorts of special effects though. And I have a few more filters in my bag, so maybe I'll try another one and see what happens with that. If you enjoy the music in this video, then you can check out my Bandcamp, polarcoaster.bandcamp.com. You can also support my channel on Ko-fi, where there are different membership tier options, and you can get early access to my videos or download the music in them. This really helps out to keep the channel running, because that way I have more time to spend on these videos and I can bring you more of them. Thank you for all your support, it really helps. I have a flow filter now. Before it was the radial filter. So let's see what we'll get with this one. Bit of rain. Doesn't really rain a lot. I come prepared though. That's quite fun too. Additional filter. just put this over my camera bag. I think this is such a beautiful little camera. It's really cute, and the results are a bit, well, it has a very painterly effect on it. If you combine it with one of these filters here, it might actually be quite nice, especially if you're only going to be printing this with like an Instax printer, or maybe showing it on Instagram or something like that on a small screen. So I think having a toy like this that gives you joy and that is fun is actually a quite nice thing to have. But yeah, maybe I shouldn't be talking to you about all this next to a motorway. I was just trying to shoot here because of the fig tree, and that I always notice when I come past here, and I photographed it in summer too, and I can't really walk past here without taking a picture of it, or in this case, many. So I'll head back to the studio now and see what I got. And maybe one of the self-portraits turned out all right. We'll see. After seeing the pictures, I actually think that this was a complete success. I only tried 2 filters out so far, which was the radial filter and the flow filter. There are actually many more filters in this set I have. There are wide angle filters and telephoto ones, macro filters, and all sorts of different things. You can even get ND filters for this, which could be very useful because it tends to overexpose a little. So there are many more possibilities still of things to try out and to see how it works. I think these results were really interesting, and there are definitely some pictures in this that will go well with my toy camera project. I'm so happy about that. Some of the effects reminded me a little bit of the box brownie too, although it is maybe a little bit more extreme. The usable picture is actually quite small with these filters. So I think one of the next experiments will be to try a special effects filter that is maybe a little bigger, maybe for a normal lens. I have, for example, a newer spiral halo filter that could work really well. It's just quite heavy, so I didn't want to try it out on the day after gluing everything in place. Maybe it needed more time to set. Now I'm pretty confident that the epoxy will hold up, and I think I can risk a big and heavy filter like that on it too. So that will be quite interesting, and maybe it will be less extreme. I'm really curious about that too. What I really enjoy about this setup is that it gets me very close to the sort of look that I can expect from my film toy cameras, but I don't have to waste film while doing complete experiments like these self-portraits, for example. I would have wasted so much film trying to get myself in the center of this, and I've never actually tried to take self-portraits with a brownie before. So that's quite interesting, and I enjoyed that a lot. To get the look just right, I actually used dehancer to add some film grain, and that makes it fit very well with the other pictures, and I'm really happy with the results. The actual pictures are more like sepia colored, which is not really my vibe, but you can just easily turn them into black and white, and you don't necessarily need dehancer for that. That's just for the film grain. So this is definitely a keeper, and I'm glad I made this mod because it makes this camera so versatile. I can still use it without the filter, and I can also use it with all the filters, with bigger filters and with these smaller ones, and there's still a lot to explore. So you can expect more videos like this one where I go out to play with it and see what I can come up with. No filter in the world can make this any sharper or improve the colors, for example, but in black and white mode with a little bit of dehancer and some filters, it's actually very close to the kind of pictures that I like to take on film. and I'm super happy with what I got here. It's really great. Do let me know what you think about these pictures and maybe which one was your favorite. And how about the filters? Did you prefer the flow filter or the radial filter? I think I preferred the radial filter, but I guess for some subjects the flow filter could be super interesting, especially if it's something moving. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps out my channel, so I would really appreciate it. In this case, I would suggest that you subscribe to my photography channel, because this is where these videos live, and I only share them with the main channel so that they get the widest reach possible. A big shout out also to all my Ko-fi supporters. You make this channel possible, and I'm very grateful for all your support. If you also want to support what I do, you can head over to Ko-fi, or maybe just watch another video. There's actually an entire photography playlist for you to watch here. And I hope I see you soon for another video. Bye!